Time to start.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the York City Historical Architectural Review Board meeting for Thursday, January 23rd. Call to order. Skian.
Here.
Zumbum not here. Schermeyer.
Here.
McLean Gross not here. Buffington.
Here.
Gifford.
Here.
Did everybody have time to review the minutes from the last meeting? If so, do I hear a motion to accept them as written?
I'll move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting as presented.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, I call for a vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 I don't think we have any unfinished business. So, the one meeting tonight. The signage at 50 North George Street. Step up to the podium. And introduce yourself.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. My name is Todd Fogdahl. I am the president and CEO at the Appel Center for the Performing Arts. Yes, we're here before you to bring some concepts that we're looking to move forward on the exterior of our facility. As a little bit of background, we have been in the midst of about a 3-year, $6 million set of capital renovations to care for, to keep up, to move forward York's historic theaters. We've completely replaced the HVAC throughout the facility. We've replaced concessions in the Strand Theater. We've redecorated all of the restrooms. We've worked in our dressing rooms. We've renovated the studio space, which overlooks Philadelphia Street. And we have more work coming up this summer on the exterior of the facility, doing some cleaning, brickwork, masonry work, as well as our signage proposal. I will mention that a lot of what we are preparing for and looking forward to is the celebration of the Strand Theater's centennial, which comes up this fall. The Strand will turn 100 years old on August 27 of 2025. We're planning a wide variety of special performances, a free community day, other historical recognitions as well. What we have before you are a couple of items. The first is to replace the two message board signs, or what we sometimes call marquee signs, that are above the doors for the Strand Theater and the Capitol Theater. The current signs have been there for probably 30 years. Amazing that they have continued to run and serve us as well as they have. Looking to update the technology on those and largely replace those like for like. And then the new addition, or the new interpretation, would be of our poster cases, and converting those poster cases, 6 poster signs which are sort of under the Strand alcove as you're coming in the Strand Theater, and then 2 posters on either side of the Capitol Theater that face North George Street. Those are currently and have been paper posters for the last 100 years, and looking to convert those to digital signage, to take advantage of modern technology there, have them be more illuminated at night so they're easier to see, and also give us a little more flexibility in promoting the wide range of performances and programming that we bring to the community. So I'm going to turn things over to Greg Koussis from Capital Construction Management to walk you through a little bit more of our proposal.
Thank you, Todd. Yes, my name's Greg Koussis. I'm with Capital Construction Management. We're owners' representatives for the Appel Center and have been helping them with this and a number of the other projects that they've implemented over the last 2-3 years. Todd did a pretty good job of summarizing what the proposal is, so I don't know that there's a lot of other just general comments that I can give you. The package that was submitted to you, I think, was pretty clear in that it had the elevation photographs with the, different signage called out in the different locations. Strickler Sign has been working with the team, and there's a representative from Strickler here. Unfortunately, the project manager who has been working on this most closely with us had a family emergency. He couldn't be here this evening, but if there's any questions that we're unable to answer, we'll be able to try and get it to you.
The original poster boards, are they going to be preserved somewhere or saved?
The paper poster boards themselves?
Well, the cabinets that they're in, are you reusing those?
We don't think that we're going to be able to reuse them in their entirety, although the proposal at this point is to replace all of the trim surrounding the electronic signage, the digital signboards, with new material that mimics what is there now. If it's possible to save and reuse what is there, that's the first preference, but there's not a high degree of confidence that we're going to be able to take that apart and reinstall it without damaging it.
Yeah, because the proposal looks very sleek and awesome. It's a matter of how much of that is actually going to look exactly the way you're saying, you know, because it seems like a pretty seamless transition from paper poster to LED screen, and even the trim looks like it's being reused in the
So
photos.
I think for the image that you're looking at, which is the two that are facing North George Street, which are on either side of the Capitol, the intent there is to maintain and reuse most of that wood trim. The trim that's around the poster boards that line the entrance to the Strand is going to be a little bit more challenging. Strickler has found a fabricator that thinks that they can replicate that identically. So that would be, I think, the approach that the Appel Center is going, is to, can't save what's there, then replicate it, make it look the same. But
So are they like a cabinet?
it is. Yep.
So if you can't reuse that, are you going to salvage those cabinets? Just, I don't want to see them busted up and thrown away. If they could be salvaged and.
If they can be, they will be.
Okay.
If they can't be, the intent is just to replicate them so that the appearance looks the same. The 6 poster boards that you see in the image, I think it's the A signs, A2, A3. You'll see that there's some fluted columns between those current poster boards, and then there's a little bit of trim on the the header going across.
Yeah, I don't think maybe I'm saying what I want to say correctly. If you can't reuse that in place, are you going to take those cabinets off and save them instead of just tearing them apart and busting them up if you can?
If we can take them apart and they're able to be salvaged in like reasonable pieces and parts, they're going to be reinstalled. If they do not come off of the wall and
Okay.
That was my
solid
question.
piece.
Was I mean, is if the difficulty was in the sort of disassembling of the piece? Has that been investigated at all? Have you guys kind of seen where the seams are, or like where you might be able to pull it apart safely and
We
reassemble?
have not done any destructive testing on it. Fortunately, that's kind of, I think, what we need to
suggesting
do to
non-destructive.
be able to figure that out. It has quite a few coats of paint on it, and you can see where the individual pieces were, initially installed. You can't tell how they're joined. You can't tell how it's attached.
So it's not like a cabinet that you can unbolt 4 or 6 bolts or something and pull off the wall. Okay.
Mark, are those original to the theater itself?
I'd have to look at that. They're very old.
Yeah, when you went there 100
I don't-
years ago, was that?
Yeah, I doubt it. I doubt
Yeah.
if they're original.
Dem Wolf designed these cabinets. Like that's
You'd have
what
to
I'm
see if
asking.
they're on the drawings. They probably aren't. They
Yeah.
probably were something that was added, and they could even date from the movie theater era.
Right.
I would say the ones in the foyer or of the Strand, if I'm using the right term for that. There's a different term for it, but those I'm pretty sure. I would imagine those are probably original to the. That's a 1920s era theater, and it's the same builder designer that did the Hanover Theater. I think, well, actually, I think the Appel family had something to do with both of them, which is why, Louis Appel's parents, grandparents, whatever. Anyway, those I would say are probably original to that, that era in that theater. The ones in the Capitol were probably added. Just like there have been other changes to that. Even the marquee there and all is not original to the Dempwolf building. They're kind of recreations of, the pre-1950 marquees that were there. I think I remember the I don't know if the correct term again is marquee signs, the signs above the doors. I remember when those electronic signs were put in, and that was controversial at the time. I don't know, Dennis, were you on the board when that was done?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more like 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. One of the reasons they got it through, and they justified it from the preservation standpoint, is they looked very similar to lighted marquee signs with only individual bulbs of the kind of the 1920s era of the theaters. So that's one way they got it through. I agree, and I think this is the same issue with the posters, especially the poster ones that face George Street, the ones that are on the Capitol, the lighted posters. One of the big concerns was the animation and, historic compatibility if the animation got too far out of control. And I think that's kind of my main concern. So I would assume the LED screens on the posters are primarily going to be static and are going to just advertise. They're just an easy way to change rather than opening a cabinet and changing a poster. You have a new, you're just going to change the screen and, the image on the screen, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, right, static.
It's not going to be constantly changing and flashing. And what about the ones above the doors? The mark.
Yeah. I mean, that would be I think we would largely be using them in a similar way to how we are now, largely as message boards. Now there are, there is, multicolor technologies and some things like that. But, look, we're not seeing this as being Times Square or Vegas with a bunch of, moving stuff and things like that. I mean, we definitely understand the sensitivities. Right. It's really, keeping the historic poster case feeling. Right. But it's doing that with a digital technology.
It's a digital screen, right, which is understandable. Yeah. Okay. What's your thoughts on it, Dennis? Because if you remember the original, the current marquee signs, what's your thoughts on that? I think the big thing is, I don't really object to it. I think the big thing is just the animation.
Is it like a flat screen TV?
Yes.
And there's no issue of something being the same all the time and burning in the image. You know how screensavers on your computer change.
Right.
And that's to prevent them from burning in the...
Is that the same on LED displays?
I don't...
It might be an older version.
Oh.
It used to be an issue, but I don't know with new screens it's as much of an issue.
Well,
Believe it is.
it's not our purview. I was just interested.
It's worth a good question to ask. I mean,
This is Heather Weichel from Strickler Signs, and I think she can probably add some background to that.
Hello, Board. My name is Heather Weichel. I am with Strickler Signs. So basically what this is like a TV screen, and it's programmable. So they'll be able to put the message board poster, and no, it won't burn into the screen, so you won't see that as it changes. It will just change. I'd also like to talk for a moment about the light that it produces. So according to, let me get my documentation.
A knit to a foot candle.
According to documentation, the sun is 6,500 nits. Now, please don't ask me because I'm not technical or scientific. So the way the American Planning Association and the United States Council of Publication kind of regulate this, even though they're not laws, it kind of gives suggestions, is the sign is 7,500. to 300. So it has an internal dimming switch. So as the conditions outside become darker, the sign also dulls too. So it will be brighter in the daylight, and it has to be a little bit brighter than the sun or current conditions. If it's a bright sunny day, it'd have to be a little bit brighter than the sun to be able to see the images. But as clouds roll in, as rain rolls in, as nightfall falls, it will actually decrease, dulling it to match the external.
There's less contrast between the darkest and the brightest.
Correct,
Right.
yes.
For the lighting engineers in the room, it's a nit is a candela per square meter, just so everyone.
Oh, we knew.
Sorry to.
You remember that?
That's quite enlightening.
And I do want to mention that the signs, that is, again, that isn't something that is a law. It's something that is suggested by the National Sign Company. We have, there's many manufacturers of these signs. Some of them follow those guidelines, and some of those manufacturers do not. As Strickler Signs, we always use the brands that do. We have 3 main brands that we use, which are Impact LEDs, which is onto this project, Watchfire and Dectronics, but going back to Impact, this isn't something that these guys or the content controller who is programming the signs can control. It's an internal photo cell that does this automatically. So there is no possibility of it being so bright and them overruling the brightness of the sign.
Until it breaks.
Until it breaks. And if it breaks, then you're doing all new screens.
Oh.
I hope you have insurance signs.
Yeah.
You think somebody's going to throw something at him?
No, I mean, electrical components.
Yeah, electronics are.
Yeah.
The discussion last time was, would this be a traffic distraction?
Correct.
Right, and I think with the dimming, as described, I mean, anything that's, no, they'll be too busy looking at their phones to be distracted by that sign. How's that?
Yeah, this was before.
Yeah.
That's,
My question for the other board members, can this be considered reversible?
yeah, I think you can. Yes, you can remove them, and especially if they keep or replicate the cabinets. Yeah, you know, but yeah, those signs can easily come off the building. And is it appropriate? I mean, in 1920s theater, you know, I mean, the argument was made last time. May have some of them had signs similar to what's there now above the doors.
Only they were light bulbs.
Right, only they were light bulbs, and it's replicated that look. They wouldn't have had video screens,
No, they wouldn't.
but, you know, technology changes, and is that where, you know, they're tucked under the marquees, you know, again, as long as it's not a lot of crazy animation. And, you know, and
Look, I'm guessing, in addition to self-regulation with lighting, there's probably a way to duplicate the script pattern. You probably have options so they could make the script, the font.
oh, you mean to look like the light bulb kind of
Probably,
things
yeah,
like
I
this?
bet.
Yeah, you could do anything with a video.
Is that a correct assumption?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, you know, you could basically use any, you know, digital design software, so,
You can get a JPEG of it.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So fundamentally, the outside won't look much different than it does currently. I agree with what you've said about flashing lights, the continually changing display. It becomes a distraction, and the more colors you add in, the more distraction you have.
The posters would basically look like lighted posters.
That's right, that's right.
Yeah.
Above the entrances will be more noticeable depending on what's, you know, again, what's on the screens and how much it moves and how bright the colors are and that kind of thing. So, I
I'm
mean,
not nearly as worried about the signs inside.
No, I think
Decay.
there your big thing is replicating those historic details of those cases, because the cases within the Strand especially are, I'm sure date to the original era of that lobby.
Well, and ideally, you'd be able to remove the top hood or lintel or whatever you want to call it in some kind of whole form, and then you maybe have to replicate the lower portions. I mean, that would be ideal, but yeah. The
big ones that are going to be, like I said, are going to be the most noticeable are the screens above, and there are tasteful ways of doing it, and there are not tasteful ways of doing it. There have been, there's a church in the historic district that has it's in a more residential neighborhood there on East Market Street. It's Asbury, and that came about. I mean, HARB originally turned that down because it's this big lighted sign with animated images, and
You had to bring that one up.
and so this board's a bit trepidatious because that one, city council sent back to work out a compromise. A compromise was worked out, and they built what they wanted to anyway and are operating it the way they wanted to, which is a lot of images that change. Last I saw it, they changed. There are a lot of animation, that kind of thing, and it was no sooner was it put up than neighbors were writing to the papers and online, and how in the hell did HARB vote for this? And HARB didn't. City council basically. So yeah, I don't think we want to see something like that, though it's more appropriate here than it is, in downtown East neighborhood, which is more residential character, and on a church, it's much more appropriate here. Somebody could make the argument that they didn't have those in the 1920s, but if they had those, they would have done the Times Square look. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
they did. That was the Times Square look of the 20s. So
Yeah, that was high tech back then.
yeah, it was high tech. So they would have been as high tech. So
I mean, regarding the message board signs, look, we would probably be interested in using the technology, the color, et cetera, as much as it allows. We also fully respect, our role in the city and as historic theaters in the city. And if we needed to come to some understanding of how we are using those signs, we would be open to doing so.
and I think that's probably the main concern. Otherwise, yes, it's reversible. Yeah, it fits the context of the building. If you're going to put them on the building, it's the place to put them. The place to,
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's tastefully done as tastefully done, I think, as it can be. I think the big thing is just then how it's used and
And
operated.
it's a big leap for us. But in my mind, I don't think it's completely unreasonable, but you do make the point about the animation, which would be different than what.
Right. I don't know how we define it. I mean, I guess I don't know offhand how we would define how they should be operated, if we can even define
Right now, that's my concern is if we vote to allow it, can we vote to limit how they use it? And if we do vote to limit how they use it, how do we?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I suppose it's like the Supreme Court definition of pornography. We'll know it when we see it.
Yeah, there you go. Good point.
Well, and for sake of transparency, our proposal, and I think the information that we gave you, does also have the possibility of one of these signs being interactive, where someone could go up to it, touch the screen, and maybe pull up.
Oh, the boards, the poster boards. Yeah.
The board itself. They could go up and maybe they want to get information about a certain show, or maybe they're looking for a place to have dinner and they want to, that technology exists.
That's not uncommon in downtown areas
Right.
around the country.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, primarily it's static unless somebody's interacting with it.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider that distracting necessarily because it's a person in front of the.
Do you see the
Well, could that portion of it be located inside the entryway?
The only two signs that are being proposed to have that touchscreen capability are the two signs that are on either side of the Capitol right now.
Capitol.
Yeah.
All of the other ones don't have any touchscreen capability.
When we discussed distracting in what way?
Taking your focus off the road. You're at an intersection.
I understand that point, but I don't think that's our purview.
It's all relative. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'm not
yeah,
arguing that it is.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
just-
that is,
Yeah,
We're gathering information here.
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that isn't our purview. Our purview is, is it historically appropriate to the building?
Right. And
In
I
the
mean,
historic district.
you certainly could make the argument that it's not. But,
Yeah, but only because they didn't have them then.
right.
They had something very similar to what's there now, which is the argument they made 20 years ago. or
How
whatever.
large were the marquee signs in the 50s and 60s? They weren't digital, but how large?
Oh, the 50s and 60s had a very 1950s modern. They might have appeared on it in the 40s.
I was questioning how much of the facade they might have been covering up.
These marquees, I don't know ever quite existed that way. I don't know if there was ever one on the Capitol. There was one similar to it on the Strand, but then, from you look at photos, and as I remember it, Dennis would remember it. I mean, Steve would remember it. You look at it from, the 1960s on. It had, and earlier it had, the plastic letters that yeah.
Oh, yeah, I mean, they're
Fluorescent lights behind it, and they were totally, and they obliterated parts of the facade. They, and I think there were two of them together. Yeah.
well, right, it was actually
driving
one,
by it,
yeah.
one large,
Yeah.
Yeah.
one large marquee that really
Yes.
served both, and then,
Yes.
used the
Yeah.
plastic letter.
Yeah, and they were a lot less, historically sensitive to the building than anything here is. So, yeah.
The old incandescent signs, didn't they have like flashing, moving?
They scrolled.
Did, yeah.
Yeah,
They
yeah, they
Well,
would
and that was
scroll.
part of that was part of, the only difference here is it's a screen and it's color, and they can do
And
more colors.
and it's more defined.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. However, if you're trying to do, I guess, is it going to look like one of the electronic billboards, or is it going to look like, are you going to use it like an electronic billboard, or is it going to be a little more,
And look, we're coming on that time of year where every tax preparation service is going to have some guy out there dressed like the Statue of Liberty, sitting around wearing a signboard and a sandwich board, and distraction is kind of in the eye of the beholder. So
yeah.
I'll make a motion. We accept the proposal as submitted
I'll second
and
that.
rely on your desire to maintain the appropriate
Mark made the motion.
attitude
That Mark.
toward the district.
I'll second that as continued.
And I would add, I think as long as if it's static changing images that change occasionally, that's going to be a lot less disruptive than if it is all sorts of crazy animation. So I don't know how your, fades and motion and, yeah. And I mean,
Understood.
you use them for sponsor advertisement now, right, to some degree.
We do. Right now, the message board over the Capitol is largely performances, and the message board over the Strand is largely sponsors.
Is largely sponsors, okay. So again, it depends when you have those sponsors, how, again, and again, it's not going to be, even comparing it to an electronic billboard,
It's a lot.
you have a
less
lot more area to
profile.
deal with. You have a very small area to deal with here, and you can't get too intricate with it, or you're not going to read it. Moving
start
things, because you
having-
have a very small area to put the
You
message.
start having burlesque shows and you've got signboards with women disrobing. We'll have you back
So
here.
you're thinking Times Square in the 1970s,
Yes.
as opposed to.
I
Amazing.
don't expect you will see us for that, but understood.
Well, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Do we want to write anything in the motion as to the justification, or that's the problem not having a consultant? We don't get that,
Yeah,
who reads it anymore anyway.
I consider it a minor change in many ways.
And then you put that up there. The only real change is it's going to be color, and you can do more with it. And again, that's not the poster signs. I think the poster signs are.
yeah, they're
So am I putting anything extra in this motion?
I would think just the justification is we're considering it a minor change, and
Replacement.
the
in kind.
configuration is
Not precisely.
not historically inappropriate for the building. And the owner is going to control the amount of animation, graphic, colors, that kind of thing.
And anything that is historic material is either to be replaced in kind or
Right.
preserved and just reinstalled.
So I think as long as you add those, that provides some kind of justification. Because somebody will complain about it.
No doubt.
Yeah, when they see it.
they will.
Yeah.
Brush up on your shorthand, Dennis.
Did everybody unanimously accept it?
We haven't voted yet.
Haven't voted yet. Dennis didn't call it yet. He's ready to.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 There's no nays. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you all for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, if there's no other business, we're adjourned to the next meeting.